Everything said on this podcast is entirely for entertainment purposes only. This is satirical and should not be considered clinical advice in any situation. Please use your own clinical judgment, using your own knowledge, expertise, and research. Consult with your local eye department if you are unsure, and always act in the best interest of the patient. Do not listen to the things that we say and take it seriously.
So we've talked a little bit about like how the OSCE kind of works and essentially what we can like look out for when we're preparing for the OSCEs. Let's move on a little bit towards the OSCEmaster. So you. So the OSCEmaster started. How many years has it been? Like 3 years?
It's been a bit longer, I think. About 4 years now.
4 years. Yeah. Okay. So 4 years since you've been actually a master now. How did it all start? What made you decide, you know what, I need to do a course to get people through the OSCEs?
So the OSCEmaster page was actually created as a result of my own struggles with the exam. So I sat my first attempt, it was September 2020. So that was my first attempt of the OSCEs, and unfortunately I didn't pass it. And I'll be honest, it did really hit me hard. And I was absolutely gutted when I didn't pass. I think it was mainly because throughout the schema registration, so throughout pre-reg, I had passed everything quite comfortably. So stage 1, passed everything within 4 visits. Stage 2, passed first time. And even going back to like university as well, year 1, year 2, year 3, passed everything first time, no resits. So then I just got to the final hurdle and just stumbled. So yeah, it did hit me hard. So obviously after not passing the September OSCE, you have to wait 3-4 months till the next resit. So that would have been in January the following year. So I had 3-4 months to basically just get my head down. I made it my mission. I need to do whatever I can to make sure I pass the next attempt. So I remember I did at least 2 or 3 in-person courses. I did another 2 online courses as well. And I remember during one of the in-person courses, actually, I had like a light bulb moment. I was like, there's so much I've learned and I wish I knew before my actual first attempt. So I did all these courses, and then obviously January OSCE came round, and thankfully I passed this attempt. So fully qualified. We got your results in February, I believe. So that was my sort of journey to qualification. Obviously, when I've qualified, I was thinking, I've got all this knowledge I've gained through these sessions, through failing my first OSCE. It would be a waste not to pass that on to other students so they don't have to go through the struggle I sort of went through. Because September OSCE, there's quite a long period of time you're waiting until your next resit. It's about a 4-month wait, and you're working on minimum wage full time, and you're working as an actual optom, even though you're getting paid as a pre-reg. So it was a graft, but eventually, once I qualified, that's when this page came. So initially, I was just putting a few posts out there, just stations essentially, breaking down a station, and then students would get in touch and comment on how useful they found it and requesting more. Because at the time, there weren't actually that many pages on Instagram providing OSCE support. I think I was one and probably one other one. So students kept commenting, mentioning how useful they are, and then I posted a few more. And then I just felt that these could be even more useful if there was actually students attempting them, and I could give them individual feedback. So that's where the online mock sessions came about. So when I put together maybe 5-6 stations initially, and allowed students to attempt them online whilst I listened to them and obviously marked them.
So with the feedback that you were getting, I don't know if you've been keeping count, but do you know what your pass rate is?
Not really, because when students pass the exam, not all of them contact you to say they passed. I
Do you
do
know?
get
Do you know?
quite a
Do you
few
know? Like
people,
follow up.
obviously.
It's like, hey, you attended this. Like, did you pass or fail?
I if
Let
that
me
was
tally
me,
you up.
if that was me, I'd be like, my pre-reg is dead to me. I ain't talking to anyone, nothing from there. I ain't looking
Yeah,
at another OSCE.
I think initially when I started, obviously I didn't have that many students. So yeah, then I would message them, how did you get on? Um, but now I have quite a few students. So like in the last January OSCEs, I think there was about 50 to 60 students. So
Oh, wow.
messaging each one individually is a bit longer. So, but a lot of them do get in touch and say thank you so much for your help. They're really useful on results day.
I like you highlighted the everything about that, how not passing and the impact that it had on you,
Yeah.
because it's so much more pressure on you on the final hurdle. Yeah, if you fail your stage one, technically that is extending your pre-reg, etc., but you don't feel as much as when it's the final stage. Once you're in stage one, you feel like a pre-reg, but at the end of it, or maybe it's just me because my pre-reg was donkey's years long, but you feel when it comes to the OSCEs that okay, this is dragging on a little bit. It's, so to not pass, and then you know that not only are you still a pre-reg, not only are you just wanting that part of your life done and just to move on, etc. But as you mentioned, the financial strain of that, 4 months off a difference between minimum wage and optimum wage. It's all these things. So to do what I highly encourage everyone to do whatever they can to try and make sure first time, especially on that last
Yeah,
round, you just
and
want
you've
over and
also
done
got
with.
with the OSCEs, it's limited attempts as well. So I believe you're allowed maximum 4 attempts of the OSCE before that's it, and you need to, I think, restart pre-reg again.
Wow.
So each time you sort of fail, the pressure builds up as well because you're getting closer to that 4 attempts. And
Yeah.
then you've got the cost as well. I think the resit cost is about £700, which as a pre-reg is like a month's wage gone on your resit.
I think the wage has gone up a little bit, but it's still quite a
Yeah.
lot.
I'm sure the fees have gone up too, but very good point. Very good point. Didn't even think about it because once you're on that like that third OSCE and God forbid
Yeah,
that fourth OSCE,
Yeah.
imagine the
exactly.
pressure.
Do you know when because you mentioned how you failed that first one and then you got the second one in that 3 month span? Were you like on a 25-minute clinic basically that whole time?
Yeah. You're working as a fully qualified optom. So I was testing the same as other resident and locum optoms, but obviously you're still earning minimum wage, and that's for like 3-4 months.
Yeah, and sometimes you're testing more. I
Yeah.
know pre-regs, and I've been that pre-reg where you end up seeing more tests than your compatriots, and if it's a locum, that hurts double. But wow, are you getting an hour? I'm getting in a day.
And you're also having to get it signed off as well, so it takes even longer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I think that was looking back, that was the biggest sort of one of the points which I would, if I was to do the OSCE again for my first attempt, I would have definitely done a course. Because like you said, Usman, I had the same sort of feedback. When I passed stage 2, everyone was saying that the OSCEs will be a breeze. Because you passed everything first time. And I went in with the mindset that the OSCEs should be quite easy. I've been fine with the rest of the stages. But the OSCE is just a completely different exam compared to stage 1, stage 2. And it's not even all about the content, the knowledge. It's more about the exam technique and the strategies and what the examiners are wanting to hear. But this sort of skill, you can only really pick it up from courses. And that's what I found out in that 3-4 month period when I was attending a lot of these mock OSCE sessions.
So with your first experience of it, were you more taken aback by, because I'm guessing you did like kind of know how it was set up, but were there points where you went into like say a station and you're like, hang on a second, I don't know anything about what I'm meant to be doing, or was it more like you didn't know how to communicate your answer? So like you knew the knowledge bit, but like the communication was the bit that you didn't have that skill like developed properly for the OSCE. Which
Yeah.
which do you feel like it was?
I think it's more the way to give the answer to the examiner or to the patient in the way they want. So with the OSCE, it's okay having the knowledge, but can you communicate it? Can you package that answer in the way the examiners want to hear? That will allow you to hit all the marking points in that station. That's the part I was lacking, because my first attempt, I did a revise for the OSCE. I tried as hard as I can, obviously, as I did for all the stages, but I sort of revised content and notes that I made throughout stage 1, stage 2. I revised a little bit with my friends as well. But like I said, I didn't do any courses. I didn't do an in-person course. I didn't do an online course. So the exam techniques were really lacking, and that showed with my first attempt. And it's something simple as like on a case history, state a relevant case history compared to state a full case history. What do you miss out? What do you include? Or a referral letter. What do each sections of the referral letter headings mean? Simple things like this, which you can only really pick it up from OSCE sessions, mock OSCE sessions.
I mean, I think you've changed so with the way that you run the OSCEmaster sessions. I think it's a little bit different to how you ran it with me. Can you just go over how the session kind of looks like now? So when let's say you get someone that says, I want to do the OSCEmaster session, how is it kind of laid out? How do you run that session?
So the OSCEmaster sessions are basically online mock sessions that are done via Zoom, and I do them in small groups. So groups of about 3 to 6 people. And the sessions are made up of candidates and observers. So the candidates will actually attempt the stations that I have on offer. Observers, they don't attempt, they just listen in, they're on the call, but they listen in to the candidates' answers, and they listen obviously to the feedback, and should they have any questions as well, they can ask. So it's made up of candidates and observers. I offer 4 different sets. So set A, set B, set C, set D. And in each set, there's 10 mock OSCE scenarios. And these are made up of communication, data interpretation, and case history examples. So you do see a wide variety of stations in each set, and it's just a mixture of stations. And obviously the candidates will attempt the stations. So the candidates will attempt them. After we've completed about 3 or 4 stations, then I'll go through the feedback. So I'll go through with what they've done well, what they could have improved on, anything they may have missed out, and conversations just naturally flow from there. Then we'll go through another 3, 4 stations. And then again, we'll go through what they did well, etc. And then you got the final 3, 4 stations at the end. So that's generally how the sessions work. The sessions take about 2.5, 3 hours to complete. And yeah, we do cover a lot of content. They're very compact.
So with the courses that you do, how many sets do pre-register? Do they tend to just do all of them, or do they just do one? Be like, okay, I think I get the gist now, or is it like varying depending on the pre-reg? How do you
Yeah, it depends. Some students, they just want as much practice as possible, so they'll just do all 4. But some other students, they may have other sessions booked elsewhere, so they might just do 1 or 2. It just depends on the student, really. But I also get students where they'll do 1 session, they find it really useful, and then they'll want to book onto additional sessions. So I get that quite a few times as well.
So for my OSCEs, I actually only did the OSCEmaster courses, and I think I did also like an OSCE notes kind of thing. Like I paid for some OSCE notes.
Oh yeah.
I think it was Out of the Box Optics or something like that. But because I never actually experienced any other OSCE courses, and I was wondering whether you know of how other OSCE courses kind of run, and what makes OSCEmaster kind of different to them.
Yeah, so obviously when I was a student and I did some mock OSCE sessions, I did quite a few. Like I said, I think I did like two or three in-person ones and then two online. So I had a gist of how the sort of structure is. The main difference with my one, I'd say mine is very clear cut and concise, with the main aim of passing the exams. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's what everyone wants. That's why students enroll onto the sessions, because they just want to pass that final hurdle. Because as a student, when I was doing the sessions, there was one or two sessions where I just felt a little bit overloaded with information for the OSCEs. And looking back, it was sort of information that maybe wasn't as relevant for the OSCE exams. So my aim was to cut out all that and just make it as simple and basic as possible, where I sort of teach techniques and strategies that students can apply to any sort of station, any scenario. It might not be the scenario that they've done with me, but they can take that skill and then apply it to any scenario. For example, in my sessions, we look at case histories. So we look at various different case histories, and I teach a structure of a case history, which you can apply to any case history that you can come across in the OSCE exams. So yeah, I think that's why the sessions so far have been quite successful, because everything is solely aimed to passing that final exam.
Have you thought of ever doing like stage 2 as well?
I've thought about it, but with the OSCEmaster sessions being sort of so successful, if you're good at something, there's no point sort of wandering off into other directions. And if something's going quite well, you just want to improve the sessions that I provide. And I have tweaked them a lot over the year or two, just to make them as relevant as possible and as useful as possible as well, for students.
Yeah, I think because when I did the courses, the kind of listening part of it wasn't a thing. And I remember you saying that like it was just you were having so many pre-reg just requesting the courses in the time leading up to the OSCEs, and you just like about half of the pre-reg just couldn't get in. So I think like that was one of the tweaks that you made, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I also found that students wanted to take part in the sessions, but they didn't feel comfortable actually speaking out and attempting the stations, but they still wanted to be part of the session. Because even as an observer, you can still pick up a lot of hints, skills, and tips. And that's why I do it in a group session, because the best way is to actually learn from your colleagues, those that are on the same boat as you, because they may say a condition or explain a condition in a certain way, and you're like, oh, that sounds quite good. I'll take a bit of that into my own answer. So that's the main reason behind the group sessions.
What do you kind of find that kind of trips the pre-regs up? So like, which scenarios or areas or topics that you kind of cover in the sets? Which ones do you feel like kind of trips up the pre-regs the most?
Generally, it's always been sort of certain practicals which students typically struggle with. These practicals are mainly like manual for symmetry is a common one. Students struggle with that one. Retinoscopy, keratometry, confrontation fields. That's another one that students can sort of struggle with. And I think these type of practicals are not that commonly performed in practice anymore, because they've got a sort of quicker and faster equivalent. So like retinoscopy, for example, are you really going to ret everyone in practice when you've got a busy clinic and you've got access to an autorefractor? Same with manual fascimeter. Are you going to use a manual fascimeter when you've got access to an automatic one? So these sort of core skills are sort of slightly fading away. And I think that's why students can sort of struggle with these type of practicals, because we're all guilty of sort of relying on the more easier, faster method. So in terms of practicals, I'd say Then one students often do mention to me that they struggle with them.
I think just the fact that you've experienced through your own, you've come from being somebody that's needed a guide like what you are, and you've gone through and been guided by many other people, and you've taken what's really worked for you, and you've created this homologation of all that, and that's what you provide. And clearly, it's worked very well. You can't fit any more pre-regs in, and that's why you have this observer thing, which is like one of my favorite parts of it, because it does mean that, okay, 3 hours for each pre-reg is a long time, and you can only do so many. There's only so many hours in the day, but you're not turning away pre-regs. You're like, no, I will still help you. I'm not going to dilute the product I'm providing for these other ones because they want a certain service, and I can't have a million people in each station, but still you can benefit from it. And yeah, if you want that communication, you can go for the communication one. If you just want to sit back and view, maybe you could do a couple, set A and B, and then observe C and D, etc. Because as high as minimum wage is going, it's still not as plentiful as it could be. But yeah, that's I think my favorite part of the service that you provide.
With the practicals, how do you kind of cover it? Because you're on Zoom, you're not there.
Yeah.
You can't teach. Are you like getting a facilitator and be like, "This is how you do it"? How do you teach them the practical?
Practicals is actually one aspect that I don't cover in my courses because it is a little bit difficult to do via Zoom. But obviously, any questions students have, they may just private message me, and I'll just give them advice on certain practicals, etc. Yeah, there's pros and cons to online sessions and in-person sessions, and especially with practicals, that's where an in-person session is also very valuable. So this guaranteed station, which I still believe is the case, is the Volk station. You want to at least practice that once before you go into the actual OSCE, and obviously that's best to do in an in-person environment.
I found that quite interesting. I mean, to be honest, because you mentioned earlier with the OSCE being so heavily communication focused, and technically speaking, you don't need to pass all 14 stations. So I guess with you kind of focusing mainly on that communication aspect or the non-practical aspects of it, you're kind of ticking most of those passing boxes.
Exactly, yeah.
Pass the Volk, though.
And yeah, to be honest, you should be able to pass the Volk, okay? That should be a guaranteed one, right?
You'd be surprised how many people struggle with it.
At that point, it's just it can't be anything other than stress and nerves.
Yeah,
I'd hope that that's
complicating it.
Yeah, you just forgot to spin it upside down, or I don't know, you just fumbled in the minute.
You forgot to wipe the things clean or whatever, something like that.
But just nerves.
Just one more point, and then I think we can go on to like a scenario, like an example one, to see how the OSCEmaster tends to work in his sessions. So the pre-reg is something that's going to be a little bit outdated in the next coming years. I'm sure you're aware of it, and I think the first years now they're starting with the 4-year optometry course, and then they end up with a master's after they're qualified. But they'll also not need to have done a pre-reg, and they're rolling out something that I think is called CLIP. Do you know much about that? Do you know how that works? What are your thoughts about the future of OSCEmaster, given that there's a kind of a shift in how the scheme for registration is gonna go through?
Yeah, so eventually they are going to finish the natural sort of current scheme of registration. So stage 1, stage 2, the OSCEs is being replaced with these different form of assessments. At the moment, I'll be honest, I'm not too clued up on how these assessments will take place and in what form, whether they're going to be like a stage 1, like number of visits throughout the year. But from my understanding, I believe they are sort of removing the OSCE. Obviously, as time goes by, I think the way the assessments occur will become more apparent. So by then I should have an understanding of sort of how I can help. But at this current stage, I'd say I'll still be obviously offering my OSCE courses for the next year or two. But then after that, we'll just see how it goes.
Abdul, as you said, with stage 2, you feel that if you have a specialty in something, you're going to focus on that. So it sounds like if it works out with this new clip thing, you'll do it. But if you don't feel that you can provide as good enough service, you'll take a step back and just focus on other things. Because
Yeah,
you clearly only
potentially.
do stuff you're an expert in.
Yeah, potentially. I think because of my own experience with the OSCE, I think that's why I was in such a good position to provide that extra help and support. Because I do think about it now, like if I was to pass that first attempt in my OSCEs, I don't think I would have made this OSCEmaster page. Because I think this page was actually created from my own struggles, and then having to study for the OSCEs so hard, going through so many different courses, teaching methods, etc., which helped build my own skill set up. I think that's why I was in a perfect position to sort of offer that guidance and support. Whereas obviously when the so the clinical learning in practice comes into place, I wouldn't have gone through that. So yeah, it might just be the end.
You hear often that people say when it comes to failing driving tests that the second time passers are the best drivers. Do you feel that the people who take 2 shots in the OSCEs are the best practitioners?
Yes, definitely. And Mehdi's the example of passing first time.
Exhibit B.
No, I think from what I've seen, there's some students who just fly through everything. So stage 1, stage 2, OSCE is absolutely fine. Whereas others, they either have an issue with stage 2 and then they pass the OSCE fine, and the other cohort sort of pass stage 2 first time, but then struggle with the OSCE. It's like one or the other that I've found is a general trend.
One final point that I wanted to just gloss over. So, with pre-regs being on minimum wage, and with the million courses and notes and things that they have to like buy to help them pass their stages and stuff like that, is there anything that you as OSCEmaster tend to provide that can maybe be a little bit more cost effective, that can help them with their OSCEs? For someone that maybe might not want to spend money on a course or something like that.
Yeah. So my page has several different posts of different scenarios that you can look through. So communication stations, practicals, general referral advice. So all very OSCE based related on there, and again, very useful information as well. I'm available as well during the OSCE period, so via DM. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to help wherever I can. So yeah, they're the main 2 really sources of support I can provide.
So further to the fact that you do have all these other free resources or all these other resources, we're really, really happy to announce that we do have a discount running just for Glass Half Full listeners. Okay. OSCEmaster Abdul has very kindly offered just for you guys, if you book 2 or more, and there's 4, and why wouldn't you want to do them all? Mehdi did them all. He passed first time. Do you not all want to be like Mehdi?
I have a star example of OSCEmaster.
Exactly. Or maybe not all of them if you don't want to end up like him. But if you book 2 plus, okay, 10% off. Okay, there's no other offer running from this. We're not getting anything out of this. We're not getting any kickback. It does not serve our interests. We're just doing it for you guys. And a very big thank you to OSCEmaster. But yeah, if you're not already sold on why you would want to go with the biggest one there is and the best one there is, then here, 10% off for 2 plus stations.
What code can they use to get that 10% off?
GHF10. GHF10.
GHF10, yeah, let's keep it simple.
GHF10. Nice.
So this is for the July 2025 OSCE.